welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to review, or I'm going to review all the books that I read in April. There weren't a lot. This is as much as physical books that I read just because I went on vacation and I really didn't take a book with me at all. And this is what I was able to get done. Like the last weeks of April. I did have a couple of ebooks, but we'll get into that. So let's get started with everything that I actually read. I'm gonna start with like the normal fantasy kind of. There's like no smut involved because I have them divided by fantasy, smut, and then adult book. That's how I have it. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Crown of Coral and Pearl. So this one I think it was recommended by Sam. I didn't know what it was. I don't even know if this is the book that she recommended, but I went with the Coral and Pearl, and I might have spoilers, so if you guys haven't read it or you guys are interested, I'm so sorry. I might spoil these books for you, but it's my way of reviewing my books and what I thought about it. So this is about a city, two cities, one that's out in sea and one that's out in land. The one out in sea is focused on beauty for the females because they have to be perfect to marry the prince on land, and that's just been their tradition for years. They're very into having, you know, perfect skin, no scars, no nothing. And this book takes you on a journey of two twin sisters, exactly the same. However, one of them gets scarred and everything kind of like, you know, kind of stops with her, but her twin sister is now like the beauty of it. And, you know, the bad thing is that she does not want to go with the prince. And yeah, this book is kind of interesting. My take on it is that, and my opinion might be an unpopular one, but I cannot stand her pretty twin sister. I can't stand it. I find her selfish. I find her, what's the word? An ass, basically. And another unpopular opinion, if you read this book, is that I actually like the firstborn prince. I like the pale prince. I know the whole, you know, contrast between characters, but for some reason I always kept rooting for the pale prince. Now that's not his name. I don't even think I can pronounce his name. I think his name is Crescent or something like that. But unlike people, I found this book to be very slow. They were just, a lot of the beginning part of this book had to deal with, you know, setting up the life of the twin sisters out in sea, you know, their lifestyle, their background of how everything came out to be, you know, their journey into the ceremony of being chosen, like who's the prettiest one there, and making their way to the kingdom. And then quickly at the end, everything just starts happening like super quick. And I'm just like, where was this at the beginning? Like, where was this at the beginning? You know, that kind of scenario. But the actions were, like, the action plots were really nice. I did not like the ending. It wasn't, I was like, I was like, I went through all of that for this. This is what I went through for that. So even though I kind of enjoyed it, I thought it was too slow in the beginning and then too fast at the end. And then the ending was like, you know, but I do still recommend it. It's a nice read. I read this because I didn't want to get into a series of books. Before I would be against standalone books, but now I'm just like, you know what? I do need that break from books. I do need to just have one book that I can just read and not think further about it. So this one is called Crown of Coral and Pearl. It's a nice flat, tiny book. It doesn't take too long, however, because it's so descriptive in the beginning and it takes a long time to get to the plot, you kind of might fall asleep on it, but you know, it's a nice story at the end. But yeah, I have very unpopular opinions that I don't like the pretty twin sister and I go for a different prince. And it's complete opposite. All right, now this is a book that took me forever to get to. This is the Sarah J. Maas Crescent City House of Earth and Blood. You guys, I bought this after reading the Court of Thorns series, and I don't know why I was so against reading this book. I don't know if because I didn't want to get into another Sarah J. Maas series. I was just like, you know, I can't do this anymore. more. Like, oh, I can't do it. But I finally caved after coming back from vacation, and I read this. You guys, everyone loves this book, and it's good. I don't think it's a bad book. However, this book had me pissed off. This book had me pissed off into chapter 60. I think that's how mad I was. For me, the beginning of the book, you're like, oh, okay, you're understanding the characters, and then bam, it's like 2-3 years later, and you're like, excuse me? And then you just start coming into with more characters and more characters, and I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm like, what? There's so much happening together. I'm like, what happened to them? And then what happened over here? And why would we have all these characters? And what? And then you would realize, like, yeah, okay, we understand this, you know, you kind of understand the plot of what's gonna happen. Like, yeah, I read Sarah J Maas books, I know what's gonna happen next. Why isn't it happening? Why isn't it happening? Why isn't it happening? I'm like, okay, stop giving us little glimpses of what's gonna happen. Can you just do it? That was me. That was me with this book. I was so angry with it. I remember I kept complaining to Bae. I'm like, dude, I'm so over this book. I'm so over this book. Like, there's too much happening. There's not enough happening. There's too much happening. Who are all these characters? Like, why? I'm like, why didn't you finish the beginning? Why are we in a whole different setting? That was me with this book. However, you guys, this is the only book that has made me cry. This book made me cry, and it wasn't even for the main characters. If you read this book, I think you will know of the one character in particular, and that made me cry. It was such a devastating chapter, and it made me cry. I didn't stop because Babe was next to me, and I thought I would look like an idiot next to him, but this is the only book that has brought tears to me. So it's good, but this book had me mad, confused, overwhelmed, and sobbing. And the end plot twist was not what I suspected, but I felt coming. So I would have to wait for the next book. And I think there's 4 houses, I believe. So I'm guessing there's going to be 4 books. But yeah, Crescent City is one that I was very reluctant to read. Like, I just didn't want to read it, but once I got through it, I was happy I got through it. But the emotional roller coaster that I went with it was one of the harshest I've ever gone through. Like, very harsh. So that was Crescent City. I literally just finished this yesterday, April 30th. So I was like, yes, I can review it for May. Like, yes, this is what I'm gonna do. And that is Shadow and Bone, and the second part to it, which is Siege and Storm. I was a little hesitant about this book because of the 9th house. I think it was by the same author, Bardugo Leia or something like that. I did not like that book. I could not keep that book up. And if you haven't seen that review, I'll link it up in a card above. I just couldn't do it. I returned that book. Thank God I didn't buy it like physical, but I couldn't do it. So when I saw that it was the same author for Shadow and Bone, I was like, oh, I bought this series like straight out of Barnes & Noble, and they're coming to me. I'm gonna have to read it. I was kind of pleasantly surprised by this. And then my sister told me that there was a Netflix show already, and then also the covers came with like Netflix stickers, and I was like, okay, I don't want to see the show before I read it. I like reading the book right now first, and then maybe if I like it enough, I'll watch the series. My thoughts on the first one, right here. Damn, I want the Darkling. I want him. Darkling is Bae. He is Bae. I am sorry to say. I am for Darkling. This is what this is. So if you guys are interested, this is about 2 orphans who are now in the army after they grow up. They are divided into 2 armies. One is human army and one is like magical army. Like, they have powers, you know, all that good stuff. And they are going into a journey to like ports to retrieve, you know, goods and stuff. And there's like this area of black mass where, you know, people hardly survive or anything. But anyhow, they go into it, and then the girl somehow shows power, like magical power, and everyone's like stunned. And then she's been taken from the human army and put into some magical army, and she's just trying to discover her way about her power, how to come up with it or how to use it, because she doesn't know how to, because she's never, you know, grown up with that life. And she meets, like, he's not a prince, I think he's like, I don't know, like the head of, you know, the army of the magical people. And I really want the romance. I really do. So that's what this book came with, and it wasn't bad. I kind of enjoyed it. I'm very slow though. This is a slow book. I would say that. Thin, slow, but enough to get through. Next, let's go into this one. I hated this book. I think at chapter 7 or chapter 3, I was already giving up on it. My opinion was that this one was too repetitive, too fast, the same things happening over and over, the same plot happening over and over, the same kind of action happening over and over, and I could not stand it. Could not stand it. I was like, I'm like, can I just get like the Darkling? Can I just get, can I have him forever and ever? But this one really just focused on the girl and her coming into terms with like what her powers could do, what she could do with them, and her inner struggle with like trusting people and learning to like let go of people she loves, or understanding the love and hate situation between her power and the people around her. This book was kind of hard to get through, and look how small these are. I mean, Sarah J Maas books are like thousands of pages, 700, 800, 900 pages long, and this book was not even that long, and it took me forever. I had to take breaks because I was getting pissed off, or I was getting like just bored because of the repetitiveness of how the writer was writing. So I still have yet to go for the third book, and even then I'm kind of like, do I really want to read it? Do I really want to read it? But yeah, Siege and Storm. This one had me struggling, but then again, I'm Team Darkling, you guys. Team Darkling. I just am. So those are all the physical books I read. Now let's get into some of the ebooks that I read, which are, dun dun dun, let's hope I have my iPad on. Okay, so the first book that I just could not even get through chapter 1 was this one. It's called It Ends With Us. This book right here, It Ends With Us. This one was too triggering for me. I think it was talking about suicide or some type of murder or something. I think it was suicide, and it was too triggering for me. I couldn't do it. There's some books where I just find too triggering, and I can't do it. That one I put away. Do not recommend it, especially if you are triggered by those kinds of storytelling or points of views, because I couldn't do it. I couldn't even get through chapter 1. There was like, nope, nope. So I think I was like 3 pages in, and I was like, yeah, no, this is not the book for me. And I've never had that. Like, at least with Ninth House, I kind of got into like 3 chapters, I think, or 5 chapters, and I was like, yeah, this is not the book for me because of the story. This one is more of like, it's too triggering for me to care. Maybe if I kept reading, I would see past it, but not this one. Next, I started another series. These are adult books by Maya Banks. If you guys saw my first initial one, I did the Rush, Fever, and Fire, I think, trilogy, the Breathless trilogy. This one was now what's this trilogy called over here? The Surrender trilogy. I read all 3 books. Letting Go, Giving In, and Taking It All. I think my favorite one out of them was Giving In. The first one, Letting Go, was about a widow trying to get over her husband's death after like 3 or 5 years, you guys. Friends flipping out, but again, she's wanting, you know, a man in her life like 50 Shades of Grey. And it kind of made sense, you know, for someone to move on. I did enjoy it. It was a nice romantic book. But the one that I really enjoyed was the one called Giving In. This one right here. And the reason why was because this one was like a plot twist. Usually these books are like 50 Shades of Grey, where like the man is in control and then like the girl is very plain and like, oh my god, I love you, billionaire, and all that good stuff. This one, it was actually about the character, the woman being like, you know, abused when she was little, and her trying to overcome her fears with men, or like any like male figure coming to have any control over what she does, which is the complete opposite of what 50 Shades kind of described, where like the guy is like, you need to be available to me like at all times. This one was like the male giving up the power and giving it back to her, so she can become confident in herself and in her body and her emotions. However, her trauma is too much to let a relationship bloom, but not being her fault. It's just like a trigger, you know, that just like, oh no, I'm in now flee or flight scenario, even though I know I like you. So I really did enjoy that book. That one I do recommend, because it's like a, it's like a whole different scenario of everything of what I was used to. The next one, that was Taking It All. This one right here, this is part of the same friendship group. As you guys don't know, Maya Banks likes to have all her friends together, have individual groups, and this series is the same. Each character has their own books within the network of the same friends. However, this one was based on a married couple. It's not about singles coming together. This one was about a married couple falling apart, trying to find their way back together. I never did like the character in the other books, just because quirky, happy, perfect characters are not my thing. They're just not like, I'm just like, go away, happiness, go away. Like, you know, it's like the happy person at 5 a.m. Like, go away. Okay, it's so unnatural to be that happy that early. That's what she kind of represented to me, and I was just like, I couldn't care for it. However, the struggle that she did go through in her marriage, I could understand it, but it wasn't like a book that I was dying for. So I only do recommend the Giving In one instead of all the other ones, because of just the twist of what this genre represents. Next, the other book that I read was by Shelley Bell. It is called At His Mercy. That one right there. This one was kind of interesting. This was about a very young girl, like 19, I believe, going into college, which she has like a dark background, meaning she was in a relationship that became abusive and obsessive and nearly dying, and then her was like, you know what, I'm tired of being a victim. I need to, you know, do this for myself. Like, I'm not scared of male figures. I'm okay. I survived. I was like, so I need to stop being treated as a victim and more like I'm a survivor situation. She finds a man that, you know, brings all her meaning back to life, but, you know, it's only like a one-time deal. And then they find each other. They're like professor and student. Hot mess. However, I do not like the plot of this one because it's too many factors into it. There is the past boyfriend and now the professor, and then at the end there's like some psychotic obsessive girl who makes the plot all twisted, that it just didn't make sense. Like this, I felt like this story or this author like ran out of how to make the ending work. Like with Maya Banks, she has like this like very high climax. Like you were expecting like there's gonna be an issue and it's gonna rift them apart, and then somehow they're gonna fight through it and get back together. Here it was like, you know what, I don't know how to make that happen, so I'm just gonna give a big old like what in the world and make it work. And it didn't work out for me, but I did like the book regardless, so that is that one. And then the other two that I also read by Maya Banks was the series, I don't even know if it's a series, it's like a 7 or 8 book kind of scenario, and I actually enjoyed, I think it was 3 of the books. Usually when I go ahead and read the books, I like to read the synopsis first and see if I will, you know, take the time to care for it. The first one was with Damon and Serena. I really like that storyline because Damon pops up in a lot of Maya Banks's books. So it was nice to see of how he got to be in the position that he is with like his partner. It was really nice because you got these two powerful like CEOs of companies coming together because of the one factor that, hey, this girl doesn't like, you know, being in control and he does. So it makes a great pairing, and it was really nice. I really did enjoy that one, and that was called Sweet Persuasion. That one right there. The next one was Sweet Addiction, and this one by far was my favorite. If any of the books I recommend you to read from these adult books are Sweet Addiction. And this is based off on one character who is part of Damon's staff. And he himself has his own story of, you know, having a young relationship and then messing it up and then finding that same girl like 10, 20 years later, I believe. I think they were 20 and now he is 40. So he finds her again, but like she's already with someone else. And they go through, both men go through this challenge of seeing like, you know, who is she's gonna pick. And bruh, I wasn't expecting that shit to happen. So I say that's the only book I do recommend from this. It's the only one. It's the only one. That is literally my favorite. I think this is the only one I bought. I do have another one that I've been on hold, but the holds at the library are very long. They take a minute for me to read, or like just get in my hands to read, because once I get a book like on ebooks, I take about a day or two to read them and then move on. And if I don't like a book, I just return it because that's who I am. But yeah, those are the books that I've read. I'll go ahead and link the ones I do really enjoy down below. There were a couple interesting ones. I'm amazed about the ones that everyone recommended off of Instagram or here on YouTube, but there was some good ones and there were some really bad ones I just couldn't deal with. So thank you guys so much for watching. I think I rambled down for a good minute, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will be doing another book review on, what is it, May, June. I think I'm gonna finish the Shadow and Bone series. I'm gonna start with the next series of Ash and Blood and Ash. That one is going haywire right now on Instagram, so that's going to be a trilogy right now that I'm going to read. And then my next one would be the Six Crows duology, I believe. So those are the ones I will be reading in between. And then I think I've been recommended a third book, so I might grab those as well. So I got a lot of reading to get through. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what your thoughts and opinions. Let me know if you read any of those books and if you have any different opinions than mine, because, you know, my opinions might not be the same as yours, but I like talking about books, reading books, and it's nice. My collection is growing and I need to get a book stand, honestly. Or I need to just be buying ebooks, to be honest, because my stack of books is growing, you guys. It's growing. And then hopefully by the time I'm done reading Shadow and Bone, the trilogy, I will see the series and see how I like it. But yeah. I'll catch you guys in my next one. Bye!